Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to year 3 of the Craig Veltri interview. My, what a wonderful year it has been. It is the second week of May, marking the third year of production of the Craig Veltri interview. As is tradition, Megan Pennington will be joining us to give an exclusive interview about her. Excuse me, let me cut tape real quick and just do that again real quick. Okay. All right. You'll cut the opening part of this, right? Okay. Thank you. All right. Three, two, one. Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to year 3 of the interview. Indeed, it is the second week of May, marking the third year of production for the Craig Veltri interview. As is the tradition, we are going to have Megan Pennington on to give an exclusive interview on what is next for her career, her personal life, and Scarfire Media. No performance review, no questionnaires, no gimmicks, just a candid conversation between two friends. Now, a lot has happened over the last year, including a rather cruel winter for both myself and Megan, starting with me in the 2025 State of the Podcast. Just days before I recorded last year's State of the Podcast, I met a woman in Myrtle Beach and fell madly in love. Our courtship was quick, intense, and led us literally all the way across the country. But, as Friar Lawrence warned Romeo, these violent delights have violent ends. Such warnings and whispers from close friends, family, and my gut were ignored. Unlike Romeo, I knew better but carried on. After 8 months, I realized that I had spent the last half of the relationship avoiding and shielding myself from her self righteous rage. Our last conversation was a vile scolding that I had never received from the mouth of my ex wife as a drunk or even my parents as a misbehaving child. I may have been guilty of benign neglect and falling back into modes of selfishness related to my career, but I did not deserve that amount of venom. When I held myself accountable, I found that there was a more appropriate synonym for what she was actually seeking: obedience, or more accurately, control. I walked away not only knowing that I didn't deserve better, that I did deserve better, but nothing was worth tolerating someone who would actively poke holes in my program of recovery. In January, I lost a dream girl, so called because perhaps she was never real. I still evaluate the loss of whatever this was. It wasn't love. Actually, I'm certain that what I experienced was love bombing. However, it blew up a part of my life that I would have ultimately been unsatisfied with. So I will give the succubus her due. Because of her, I regained belief in my songs. I was ready to coast into my 40s and make my living by the ocean doing covers. Instead, I have a music video for Biloxi and vinyl pressing of Letters to the Defendant. Further, I've begun making demos for the hodgepodge of styles to be called Sounds Like Me, and thanks to Megan Pennington, we are finishing up songs for a record under the moniker Moonshine Vagabonds. We talked about our record on Fire Pit briefly, and we'll go in depth a little bit later. I plan to pitch both projects to Nashville labels in the hopes of being able to finance and complete them by year's end or sometimes quarter 1 of 2026. In January, I joined NSAI, the Nashville Songwriters Associations International, in the hopes of networking with writers and to be heard by the people with the checkbooks and the cachet on Music Row. The plan as it stands right now involves splitting time in Myrtle Beach to honor the gigs that I have through Tin Roof and Sandpiper Entertainment, Pittsburgh to honor my commitments with Scarfire and to maintain a presence in my beloved native city, and Nashville, where my goal is to move the operations for Craig Veltri Productions by October 31st. The continued production of the Craig Veltri interview is a very easy one to maintain. It is among my favorite things to do, and with the help of people like, of course, Megan Pennington, but specifically to this point, Danny Felt, Heather Amos, and the newest collaborator, Jackie Dalius of Just Dreams Ventures, that recommend and book guests for the podcast. All I need is a good internet connection and a clear week, and a month of shows are already up on the Buzzsprout feed. I've also decided to start a Craig Veltri interview Buzzsprout independent of Scarfire Media to make it easier to find the interview for new listeners each week and will allow me to upload old episodes in one place at least twice a month. And I told Megan that I'm giving this podcast one more year. I told her if I make $1 off of this podcast, I'd continue on. And no, Megan, it will not be as easy as just handing me a dollar. But I say that publicly because that's how much I believe in Megan Pennington and the mission of Scarfire Media being the voice of the indie arts. Now, through all the losses, including the sudden death of my friend Stacy Letty at the age of 49 of a stroke, I remained sober. I will be 40 this year, and every day, even the days my heart gets broken and my patience gets tested, my life is still manageable. My recovery program promised me that in time I would intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle me. Out of all the promises that have come true in my life in just under 3 years of sobriety, I believe that anyone who really knows me will tell you that I'm willing to add to the solution and not the problem. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, often said to look for the helpers. I'm always willing to help. And for me, that's growth, which is good enough for me, and I don't care if it's good enough for anyone else. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I've come to believe that if I stay away from the first drink, I can accomplish most things with relative ease. But I've never been able to accomplish anything without help from others. So, in that spirit, here's a woman whose friendship, music, and dreams, including Scarfire Media, saved my life. Megan Pennington. Mama Meg, welcome back to the interview.
Hi, excuse me. I cannot believe it has been 3 years. Wow, what a long strange trip it's been.
Yeah, and it only gets stranger, but I do hold firm to the belief that it gets darker before it gets lighter. Now, I alluded to a rather cruel winter. The beginning of April, the police responded to your residence to take away a drunk and belligerent and harmful to himself and others, now estranged husband, Tyler Cannon, away. It's been talked about on social media. We've talked in the interim as well about it. And this is really your first public statement, opportunity for a public statement if you wish to give it on your medium. So the floor is yours. What is the relationship between you, Tyler Cannon, who at one point was the owner of Scarfire Media, was at one point your husband, and was at one point the bass player in your band Moonshine Jasmine? Miss Pennington, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't really know how I feel about it at this point. On April 1st, Tyler and I got into an argument because he was about a bottle's worth of liquor in, accused me of cheating on him, and decided to pull a shotgun out and try to kill himself. And when I tried to disarm him of said shotgun, I didn't get as far as I wanted to. He beat the hell out of me, took the shotgun back, and then I took the kids and called the cops. So I managed to get out of there. Me and the kids have been safe for the entire time. Since that day, actually, I was able to get us into a nice, safe place to live temporarily. And the next day, I was able to get us all beds to sleep in. So we've been comfortable and safe. The only thing that's really not comfortable right now is we've been dealing with a power outage because of all the weather. I haven't spoke to Tyler since the day of the incident. He was arrested that day. I don't want to say anything incorrectly. I don't know if it was the night of the incident or if the next day, but I know he was out on bond or bail, whatever the term is. I did put a PFA against him, and we're getting ready to go back to court for that. So I'll let you know how that goes. But emotionally, I'm I'm really tore up about this, honestly, because anybody who knows me knows that I did a whole lot of wild living through my early 20s, even into my mid 20s. And I kind of feel like the boy who cried wolf, you know. There's a
What do you mean by that?
lot of times I've done sad and I shouldn't have gotten away with it. But this is one of those times where like I didn't do what I was accused of. There was accusations that were thrown at me that aren't true. Granted, I'm not a perfect person. Granted, I did do some things that weren't, perfect in my marriage, but out of the things that weren't true, the things that really did, kind of pivot things, I just, through it all. I'm trying to smile. I'm trying to be positive for the kids. I'm hurt. I'm a little confused. I'm lost. I'm angry. Some parts of me feel like, this was for the best. But on a business standpoint, things are looking up. The loss of his position within the company of Scarfire is no loss to us in the momentum standpoint. Um, in fact, our team is growing, even growing more so than what I've been able to tell you. I'll tell you off the air because it hasn't been announced yet. Real big news coming. But we've got that. And then with Moonshine Jasmine, I was able to find a bass player about a week and a half after it all happened. Now we're working with Chris Volpini. I don't know if he's going to be our like full-time bass player, but I do know that he's willing to give as much time to us as humanly possible. So it's just all up from here now. Ryder's getting ready to finish school. We're getting ready to find a new school district for him. And once I find like a more permanent place for us to live, Tallulah will be going to preschool. We'll figure out the visitation and the custody and all that. But yeah, writing some banging music out of it. Got two songs so far, and
Yeah.
working on a third right now, actually. So yeah.
It's pretty fortuitous that not only did everything that I had mentioned in the read here, but once everything was coming down, we already had kind of that built-in therapy that we had talked about. We talked about the one song in particular, "We're Through," that is poised to be on the Moonshine Vagabond record. And I will say that, as somebody who is what Tyler is, I could I could see the train coming, and really all I knew to do was to be as gently hitting that I'm available, and gave as much help as possible as I could. I am just beyond glad that, including Tyler, nobody was harmed in the incident. And but back to the business here at Scarfire Media, and as far as Moonshine Vagabonds, music has always been our salvation. But I always kind of felt that ever since my divorce, we've always kind of clung to each other as far as the ideas and as far as the art is concerned. And I I'm still trying to piece back who was it that suggested that we start writing songs about my ex, and how and we've always been kind of talking about doing some sort of a merger over the last couple of years. Do you remember when I remember you saying it was kind of like my feet were hitting the ground and your feet were falling, something to that effect. How do you remember this project actually crystallizing and actually looking like a project at this point?
So the songwriting itself, you had asked me this before, and I gave a half answer because I had to think about it. This actually is strange. It happened in parts. It really started that day you came over my house when I lived in Brackenridge, and you came over to write. Oh God, what the heck do we call it? Driving. Oh my God. You came over to driving, and that kind of like kickstarted the writing process between us because believe it or not, you're actually the first songwriter I've ever collaborated with. Um,
Really?
yeah. And you're on a list of three now, going on four. So like I'm not really much, not that I don't love to do it. I just don't get a chance to do it very often. So like I've always kind of kept that in my back pocket, when we get a chance, we'll write music because we've done it quite well with each other. Um, so you with Kat, me going through the falling apart of my marriage, if you will. It kind of, if you will, gravitated us towards each other with, hey, I got this song idea. Hey, I got that song idea. Hey, I want to bitch about this. Hey, I want to complain about that. So, like you said, as your feet were falling, so was I, and that just kind of the combination of the time and experience that we've had to work with one another, falling apart of life. This was fate telling us it needed to happen now and not later.
I completely and utterly, you know, it takes what it takes, and timing is really about everything. And right now, and my list is we have five done, and we could probably fit about between songs that you probably could write for Moonshine Jasmine, and I could probably keep for myself. We could probably bring 12 to a project at this point, and we'll talk specifics at this point. But uh, already we're getting. We'll tell the people out here in internet land, that we are going to be doing some shows coming up this summer. One's already booked for July, another one's already booked for September, under the moniker Moonshine Vagabonds. I'll just go ahead and say that it just seemed like a natural combination of names. You being from Moonshine Jasmine, and every iteration of backup band that I've ever had are the Vagabonds, Craig Veltri and the Vagabonds. And it seems that most of the songs that I feel that I'm bringing to the fold are a lot of songs about being a wanderer and being a vagabond. And I think the reason that we mesh so well as far as our writing styles, our musical styles, not just similar taste and similar experience, but mostly the experience, I would say. We spent our lives, but the better part, half of my life on the road, the better part of your 20s on the road. So I think we have very much of a motif, though I will say, if you try to put me in a Western shirt, I'll kill you.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I just if in a flannel, if anything, a flannel and a pair of torn up blue jeans.
I, this is a 3-day beard. I am not. I am not. No one's gonna believe me. If
Oh, come on, Craig. You don't want to do it like one of the Appalachian cowboys for me.
no, I once got hit in the head with the mechanical bull. That's the closest being a cowboy I've ever been. So no, no.
Oh boy.
And
Oh boy.
what are you getting on me like Minnie Pearl? You're from Shaler. Shut the hell up on that. So,
I have you know that my cousin is that trashy girl that used to work on Hugs, that Trixie McCoy, you know the one.
no, but I would like to meet your cousin. uh, now, you. I've already said that you've moved on with another bass player, but you've also been releasing footage on your social media that you, Wisniewski, and Ben are already in studio working on songs. Quick turnaround for a follow up to Grateful, considering that album's only really been out for less than 6 months at this point. So, who are you working with, and how is it? Obviously, it's you driving the train. Why did you need to get into the studio so quickly, and who was so kind and affordable enough to let a now single mom back into the fold and record?
So this one's a big deal. This one's a big deal. We're in the studio as early as we are because I got a message on Instagram from Ira over at Mr. Smalls.
Right.
Ira is an intern and said that I forget where they saw us play, but they saw us play somewhere and offered us time to come do a single. And was it $50 an hour or something like that? I don't know if that's the full rate, but that's what we got. So we're in with Mr. Smalls right now. So sorry to interrupt, but we got power back at the house. I just got the go text. Yes.
So, to put
Sorry.
context for people listening outside of the greater Pittsburgh area here on the Craig Veltri interview, the third anniversary show, State of the Podcast with Megan Pennington on the Scarfire Media Podcast Network. To the point about the power just turning on, according to Duquesne Light this past week, a storm with 80-mile-per-hour wind knocked out 240,000 subscribers to Duquesne Light in the greater Pittsburgh area and surrounding counties, including Megan, including myself, actually, and a couple of people on the North Shore really got it bad, and of course the rural counties always seem to get it worse. But the point being, Megan has been without power now for the last week, and as of this moment, Sunday, 8:46 Eastern Standard Time, her and her children have power, so now she doesn't have to engage with them directly. So, and she can't die.
Anyway, sorry.
Second point,
So yeah, we're working with Mr. Smalls to do our single. We just wrote a song called Crazy Out There. Fun fact, I'm in my studio office at Sing 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 right now. I was working our songwriters camp last year, found some half-written song lyrics at home, said, screw it, I'm working a songwriters camp. Wrote down the rest of the song, wrote a total banger. Oh my god, it's so good. So we've been recording that. The problem with that is we started to record it before Tyler and I split. So we gotta go take Volpini to Smalls and record the bass part again. But that'll be done. Oh no.
Well, it wouldn't be.
In addition to that,
I mean, it is your band, and I understand
huh?
you want him even on bass on this, considering everything that happened. But it wouldn't be the first time that somebody. I think about Pete Willis on Def Leppard's Pyromania, who left the group in on not very good terms, but they still kept his part since it was late enough in the production. Do you feel that the production is on early enough that you can make the replacement no big deal, or is this really just you don't want his name on the record at all?
Hold on, Craig. Someone tried to call me just now. Now I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. What the fuck did I just do? Can you hear me still?
I can.
Okay, I cannot hear you.
How about now?
No, the problem is you're like coming through my phone speaker, not my like if I'm on the phone.
How about now?
Are you recording? Truthfully, the reason why I'm considering re-recording his bass part is for no other reason than I know my husband a little too well. And I know that my husband likes to be a little petty. And the last thing I want to do is I don't want to get a letter in the mail stating, Miss Pennington, I need you to take me off of that record. Because I'm not going to say that my first cease and desist came from my first husband. So I'm just gonna nip that in the butt and eliminate the problems before they start.
Fair enough. So being involved in Mr. Small's state of the art studio, converted from an old church, being in that and being with an intern in the company as well, so that explains the lower rate. How do you feel that everything's coming out so far sounding, especially a song like that you've done? It's crazy out there for almost a year live. So anybody who knows the band knows the song already. But how is this sounding in a studio, which is a song that is so.
Oh, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very thankful to say that once again, I'm in the Mr. Small studio with the legend himself, Mr. Larry Luther. If you know anything about the Megan Pennington lore, Free, Big Ball of Crazy, and Let's Make a Date were actually all recorded in partner between Mad Hands Records and Mr. Small. So I had worked with them for quite a few times in the past. So it's everything that I remember from the attitude, the decorum of everything. But it's like a million times better because now they're at the new location. Used to be over on the north side. Really cool building over there, but like this one is wild. It's that church right across the street
Big
from
building.
the actual concert venue. So it's huge. Um, and Ira is phenomenal at what they do. Um, if I wouldn't have been told that Ira was an intern, I wouldn't have known. So, very, very good experience all around. I would highly recommend paying, even like I said, I don't know what the full rate is, but I would highly recommend putting in the money for that because they're so professional, they're so quick, and they're so just good at what they do. So, shout out to Smalls. Thank you once again for allowing me to do a Force song.
I spoke with somebody last week on this program, Micah Cottingham, and it took her 6 years to get financing between her previous record and the record that she's currently planning on putting out this summer. For you and the turnaround that you've been having in the last couple of years, I'm not going to ask you how you find the financing. Obviously, you find deals where you can get them, but just getting the songs recorded and getting everything done as fast as you possibly can. Is it just is it a I want to keep my name out there relevancy sort of thing, or is it just like or do you just fear having them on the shelf too long? Why are you so quick getting things back in the studio, even as the world's falling apart?
Well, Grateful came when it did, just because that was the natural progression. Crazy Out There is coming because like I said, Hunter had reached out to us, so I kind of like jumped on it and grabbed a spot as soon as we could.
So
And then this third song that we were getting ready to drop, which is it's a unique drop because we got paid to write and record a song with a local rap artist, and it was a direct to vinyl. They're not doing any sort of digital release. It's just like 500 copies of this vinyl that they're releasing for the Barrel and Flow Festival. So we recorded that because they hired us to come in for that song. So the last two recording sessions that I've been in, except for All Things Grateful and All Things my solo work, like Believe Me and all that stuff, like that was the new stuff is just purely by happenstance. I didn't actually have intentions on going back into the studio just yet, but it, landed in my lap and I figured why not.
as far as the things and doings here in Scarfire Media, you had already mentioned we had been building already, and as of this evening, in fact, not 2 hours ago after we hit record on this button, our dear friends Ryan Baker and Zach Miller, collectively known as Lucky Us, have become the newest proud members of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network with their podcast Lucky Pad. And I just took a listen to it, hilarious as I knew that they would be, and witty, and just so on top of them in their banter. It's almost headache inducing, but it's like an ice cream headache almost. You're so, it's so enjoyable to do that. And of course, with them, we bring in Ryan's partner Jay, who is also their social media director, who is helping us on here as well. Not to mention the addition of the Cool Brother podcast. I'm doing all of the talking, and you're probably the better Carnival Balker. And this is coming from a former pro wrestling announcer here. So the build of just the talent roster within the last quarter of the year, not even from when we last talked in this venue here. The speed in which we are picking up things with Scarfire Media. Did you think it was going to come at this point in the beginning of starting this up, or is this as sudden as it has been wonderful to watch?
I am going to sound like a really bad person when I say this, but this separation was one of the best things that could have happened for this company. And I say that because now I don't have to listen to the constant negative comments about this person, that person, this idea, that idea. We have the safe space that I've been preaching that Scarfire was since the day I opened doors. And the energy that was negative that was within that prior version of our team. Since it's been gone, I've noticed that everybody has felt the positive effects of that lack of the negative energy. And it feels like we can finally be a team with each other. So, no, I wasn't expecting it to be this great. I was expecting to have to cry my mascara off to you in a year's time. Please don't leave. Here's $1.
Well, I'll make you
But
smile back
really great things
someday.
are happening. But yeah, no, I wasn't expecting this, but I'm very thankful for it. And I'm strapped in, locked and loaded and ready to go.
So, what does that mean as far as the continuing growth of the platform itself? We had talked around doing more shows. All the podcasts now have, including my own, including this, is going to have its own um, YouTube video, its YouTube presence as well, and of course, uh, merchandising, which we had talked about more, but there were a lot of stops and starts. I guess the question is this: even though we're building, what are we going to? How is the build going to go forth, and how are we going to see it be a much more clear path than it was last year?
My goal with Scarfire is when, I don't know, Joe Schmo with a guitar walks up to us and says, "Hey, I need some help." I want them to be able to find a home within the podcast network, find a gig within our live show catalog, and find a listing within the musician's catalog that is used on the digital platform that the venues are to shop on. I basically want us to be the one-stop shop for the independent artists to at least get their foot in the door. So more shows, more sponsored events where we sponsor them, they sponsor us. More podcast episodes, more sponsors for the podcasts, and more social media growth. So yeah.
All the things you need as far as building any kind of media network and media presence. 3 years since I've been doing this podcast, 3 years since we started out, and you started this out. I wouldn't say it was on a whim, but on the premise that you could do better than the people who were putting you on at unrestricted radio. And where in the world is Megan's New Music? You were looking at how they were doing, and you said, well, if you can't do it right, you may as well do it yourself. And you've been doing it yourself for 3 years. I know we said we wouldn't do any proper evaluation, but from where you are sitting, the last month or so notwithstanding, how do you feel that you've been doing as far as this venture is concerned?
Doing a lot of growing, a lot of learning, a lot of failing, but a lot of succeeding as well. And it's been a lot of success in ways that I didn't think I would see success, that I didn't even realize I would recognize would be success. But
Example.
if, well, for example, the succubus, if you will, the the term I love that you call her. That was a fail and a half. That was real bad. I was getting worried she was going to come after us for something. But I learned a lot from that experience because I learned that I really can't just like grab onto any sob story. I really can't just grab onto anybody who's like, yeah, girl power, let's help each other out. Like it helped me really, like, that was the kickstart of the 2025 realization that, like, I need to be careful on the boundaries. Being 30 means I'm getting old, and getting old means I don't have time left, and I'm not going to let any more BS come my way. And I'm very thankful for that lesson because I needed it, frankly. So, stuff like that.
Still sorry I ever brought that into the fold here, and I keep that name out of my mouth and off of this show because you never know if she will show up again. And two, we have a record of songs about her anyway coming up, so it's going to be a lot more fun to talk about her in that venue, I think, and a lot more screaming. But in any case, um, all the same, that is you can't actually learn from your mistakes until you actively build up from those mistakes. But it do I've said it in my own recovery. I don't regret the past nor would to shut the door on it. But do you look back on any of the last, let's say, year with any regret whatsoever? Megan, can you hear me?
The allow my no negative parts of my life, these small things that would bog me down and make me mad, allowing those things to dim the light of the really good things that are going on around me. Because there's a lot of times in my life where I in the last year, I should say, I didn't really appreciate the beauty that was unfolding with Starfire because I was so busy trying to maintain two kids and a drum. So I regret not allowing the light to shine through a little bit more, but I'm really happy that it happened because once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right.
An answer I'm not surprised to hear on this, Megan. Well, uh, I will just say one last thing before we close on this, and thank you so much again for coming back on. And I will just say this to you, Megan. I'm positive that I am not your best friend. I've met the person that you consider your best friend. However, uh, I say without question or hesitation that you are indeed my sister in soul, and that you are my best friend. I consider you my best friend. And I love you, and I thank you so much always for the opportunity of this platform. And thank you again for coming on for the third anniversary of the Craig Veltri interview.
You know, I want to say it public for everyone to know. I was, since I'm a girl, my little girls, we always hear, you don't always have to have one best friend. And so, with that being said, Craig, you were absolutely one of my very best friends. And I'm very glad that I met you. I'm very glad that the pandemic made me want to start talking to independent schlubs like me, and it brought me a truly magnificent one. And for those of you who are watching this show, not because he's part of my company, but if you haven't streamed his music, if you listen to the show, you're missing out. You should stream the show. Thank you for all the love and support for me, for Craig, for Starfire, for the independent world of music.
The sorcerer of Scarfire has spoken.